Can we really outsmart the ticking clock of bone aging? It's a question so many women ask, right?
Yeah.
As they navigate all those changes that come with menopause. Well, today we're diving deep into a 10-year study that just might hold a surprising answer.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
We've got some intriguing research out of New Zealand about a potential game changer when it comes to fracture prevention, specifically for women in early menopause.
Right.
So buckle up because we're going to unpack a clinical trial that tested the power of just 2 doses of medication 5 years apart.
Really interesting stuff. What I find so fascinating here is the study's laser focus on early postmenopausal women. This is a group that's often overlooked when it comes to preventative measures for bone health.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We often think about bone health in the context of, established osteoporosis.
Yeah.
But what if we could intervene before significant bone loss occurs? That's the million-dollar question this study set out to explore. They recruited over 1,000 women, all between 50 and 60, none of them with pre-existing osteoporosis, and then divided them into 3 groups.
Okay, and they use Zoledronate for this. It's a drug already used to treat osteoporosis. Some of the women received 2 infusions of it, 5 years apart. Others just got one at the start. And then the last group received a placebo.
Right, a pretty straightforward design. But their goal was anything but simple. They wanted to see if these infrequent zoledronate infusions could actually prevent new vertebral fractures.
Those are the fractures in the spine, often silent and incredibly debilitating.
Yeah, they're often called silent because they might not cause immediate, noticeable symptoms. But over time, they can lead to a gradual loss of height, changes in posture, and chronic back pain.
Makes sense.
To track these, the researchers used spinal x-rays. They followed these women for a decade, painstakingly monitoring any changes in their spines.
Wow, a 10-year study. That's quite an undertaking.
It really speaks to their commitment to understanding the long-term effects of this intervention. So, drum roll, please.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Let's talk about the results. The group receiving 2 doses of zoledronate. Well, they had a significantly lower percentage of women developing new vertebral fractures compared to the placebo group. Seems pretty straightforward so far, right?
Yeah, right. But here's where things get interesting. The group who only received 1 dose at the beginning of the trial, well, they didn't show a statistically significant difference in fracture rates compared to the placebo group.
It seems a single dose just wasn't enough to offer long-term protection. It really challenges the prevailing thought that 1 dose could somehow, magically shield your bones for years to come.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, how does zoledronate work its magic anyway?
Well, Zoledronate belongs to a class of drugs called bisphosphonates. And it basically works by slowing down bone turnover, which is that natural process of bone breakdown and rebuilding that happens throughout our lives.
So it's like putting the brakes on the demolition crew while giving the construction workers a little extra time to build strong bones.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the study actually confirmed this was happening. The groups receiving Zoledronate showed decreases in certain markers that indicate bone turnover. But, and here's the real puzzle, the single-dose group also showed those decreases. So why didn't that translate into fewer fractures for them?
It's like they expected the effect of the zoledronate to last at least 5 years. After all, prior research indicated its effects on bone mineral density could persist for that long, maybe even like up to a decade. But this trial kind of threw a wrench into those assumptions, at least when it comes to, these vertebral fractures. It suggests that while slowing down bone turnover is crucial, there's a lot more we're still unraveling about how to sustain, bone strength over time.
That's a good point. It really does bring up a crucial point about the complexity of bone health. Maybe that initial dose does provide a sort of boost to the bone's internal scaffolding, but perhaps over time that benefit just wanes, and you need a reinforcement shot to truly maintain its strength over the long haul.
So it's less of a set it and forget it approach and more of an ongoing process. Fascinating stuff. But as always, there's more to this story. We've focused on vertebral fractures so far, but the study also looked at other types of fractures too. What did they find there?
Well, they explored the rates of other fracture types, like fragility fractures, which are, any fracture excluding minor ones in your fingers and toes. They also looked at any fracture overall. And then a category they called major osteoporotic fractures. This last category includes fractures of the wrist, spine, shoulder, hip, or pelvis, the ones that can really impact your life.
Right. Those are the ones that can seriously affect mobility and independence, especially as we age. So beyond the vertebral fractures, did the groups receiving zoledronate show any benefit for these other types of fractures?
That's where things get a little less clear-cut. While there were some hints that zoledronate might reduce the risk of these other fracture types, the results just weren't conclusive. They need more research targeted at those specific areas. But before we dive deeper into those other types of fractures, let's shift gears a little and talk about something just as important as preventing fractures: safety. Any red flags with zoledronate?
Right, right, because any potential benefit has to be weighed against potential risks, of course.
Absolutely. And the good news is that the study found that zoledronate had a good safety profile overall. Very few adverse events were reported. In fact, the rates of serious events like heart attack, stroke, and cancer were similar across all three groups,
Yeah.
even the placebo group.
That's reassuring to hear, especially when we're talking about a medication that could be used long-term. So while this study doesn't offer all the answers, it certainly adds a vital piece to the puzzle of fracture prevention.
It absolutely does, and it really opens the door to even more questions.
We'll get to those in a bit, but first let's take a step back and consider what all this means for women concerned about their bone health, especially those, transitioning through menopause. What are the key takeaways from this study so far?
Well, I think this deep dive really reveals a crucial insight, right? 2 doses of zoledronate, 5 years apart, were effective at preventing those vertebral fractures in, early postmenopausal women. But a single dose just wasn't enough to make a statistically significant difference.
Yeah, that's huge. It really challenges that idea that, like, a one-time intervention is all it takes. This study suggests that we need to shift our focus to, long-term strategies for maintaining bone strength. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room, right? This study focused specifically on vertebral fractures. What about other types like hip fractures, which can be, devastating?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. Hip fractures are a major concern, especially as women age, but unfortunately this particular study didn't give us a definitive answer about zoledronate's effectiveness in preventing those. They did observe a potential benefit, but we need more targeted research to confirm that.
So it's not a universal shield against all fractures, at least not based on these findings alone. But there's another layer to this story that I find intriguing. Remember how the study was designed with the assumption that zoledronate's effects would last at least 5 years, leading to that 2-dose schedule?
Yeah.
Where did that initial assumption come from?
Oh, that's a great question. Previous research, suggested that a single dose of zoledronate could have lasting effects on bone mineral density for several years. Some studies even suggested these effects could persist for a decade. So this study's findings, seem to contradict that, at least when it comes to vertebral fractures.
It's almost like a puzzle, right? They give a single dose, they see those markers for bone turnover decrease, but in the few years down the road, the protection against those vertebral fractures kind of weakens. Then a second dose is administered, and the protection seems to, like, ramp back up. It makes you wonder how long those effects truly last after that second dose. 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years, maybe even longer.
It really highlights the dynamic nature of bone health and how much we still have to learn. And it's important to remember that, preventing fractures is only one piece of the puzzle too. What about the quality of life for these women? A fracture, even a silent one in the spine, can have a ripple effect on their overall well-being.
You're bringing up a really important point. Were there any aspects of the study that looked at the participants' overall well-being? I mean, beyond just the X-rays.
Thankfully, yes. The researchers collected data on back pain and disability, factors that can significantly impact daily life, especially for women experiencing those, often overlooked vertebral fractures. Now, they haven't published detailed findings on this aspect yet, but it'll be fascinating to see if they observed a correlation between, zoledronate use, fracture reduction, and improvements in those quality of life measures.
Yeah, imagine if Zoledronate could not only help prevent those fractures, but also, lead to less pain and improved mobility. That would be a remarkable achievement, right? Going beyond just extending lifespan to actually improving health span.
Exactly. That's what we should be aiming for, right? Helping people live longer and healthier lives. So let's recap what we've learned so far. I mean, this deep dive has revealed that infrequent zoledronate infusions can be a powerful tool for preventing those vertebral fractures in early postmenopausal women. However, there are important nuances to consider.
For sure. The 2-dose regimen, spaced 5 years apart, seems to be the sweet spot, at least for that type of fracture. But we need more research to determine if this applies to other fracture types. And also to understand zoledronate's impact on, quality of life factors like back pain and disability.
And of course, we can't forget the importance of, a holistic approach to bone health. Medication is one part of the equation, but lifestyle factors, things like nutrition, exercise, and maintaining a healthy weight they play crucial roles too.
Right. It's not just about popping a pill and calling it a day. It's about making choices that support, strong bones throughout life.
Yeah.
But there's one more big question this study raises, right? I mean, if 2 doses, 5 years apart, seem to be like the magic formula for preventing vertebral fractures, should this be the standard recommendation for all early postmenopausal women?
That's a question that researchers and clinicians are really grappling with right now. And unfortunately, the answer isn't as straightforward as we might hope.
Why not? On the surface, it seems like a logical conclusion based on the study's results.
Well, before we jump to any conclusions, we have to consider a few crucial factors, right? For one, even though Zoledronate had a generally safe profile in this trial, there's always the possibility of side effects, even rare ones.
Right. No medication is completely without risk.
Exactly. Plus, there's the logistics of receiving 2 intravenous infusions 5 years apart. That might not be feasible or desirable for everyone.
That's true. It's not as simple as taking, a daily pill or something.
Hmm.
And then there's also the cost factor to consider, too.
Fortunately, Zoledronate is now available as a generic drug, making it, more affordable than it used to be. But there are still costs associated with the infusions themselves. And those costs need to be weighed against, the potential benefits for each individual.
It sounds like we're talking about, personalized medicine. There's no one-size-fits-all recommendation. Each woman's risk factors, preferences, and circumstances need to be, carefully considered.
Precisely. And this is where having an open and honest conversation with your healthcare provider is, so crucial. They can help you assess your individual risk of fracture, discuss the potential benefits and drawbacks of Zoledronate, and explore other preventative measures you can take too, including, lifestyle modifications.
It's all about, empowering women to make informed decisions about, their bone health, armed with the latest research and personalized guidance from their doctor. But there's one more piece of the puzzle I kind of want to explore here. We've talked about the 2-dose regimen,
Yeah.
potential benefits, the risks. But what about alternatives? Are there other ways to prevent fractures, especially for women who, might not be suitable for Zoledronate therapy?
That's an excellent question, and it brings us back to that concept of a holistic approach we were talking about. Remember, medication is just one tool in the toolbox.
Right. We can't forget about those, lifestyle factors we discussed earlier. What role does nutrition play in all of this? What specific nutrients should women be focusing on?
Well, calcium and vitamin D are they're the two heavy hitters when it comes to bone health. Calcium is, the building block of bones, and vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium efficiently.
So making sure you're getting enough of those is, it's crucial. But what are the best sources?
Dairy products like milk, yogurt, and cheese they're excellent sources of calcium. But if you're, lactose intolerant or prefer a plant-based diet, there are plenty of other options. Leafy green vegetables like kale and spinach are good sources, as are fortified plant-based milks and yogurts.
Okay. What about vitamin D? We often hear about, getting it from sunlight. But are there, dietary sources as well?
Sunlight is definitely the most efficient way for your body to produce vitamin D. But it's not always possible to get enough sunshine, especially, during the winter months or if you live in a northern climate. In those cases, it's important to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D from your diet. Fatty fish like salmon, tuna, and mackerel are good sources, as are egg yolks and fortified foods like, cereals and orange juice.
So paying attention to, both calcium and vitamin D intake is a must. But what about exercise? What type of exercise is best for, building and maintaining bone strength?
Weight-bearing exercises are the key. These are activities that force you to work against gravity. So, things like walking, running, dancing, and strength training.
So hitting the gym or, taking a brisk walk can actually benefit your bones. I like the sound of that.
Absolutely. Weight-bearing exercises, they stimulate bone cells to grow and become denser, which can really help reduce your risk of fractures. And it's never too late to start. Even if you haven't been active in the past, incorporating weight-bearing activities into your routine can really make a difference.
So we've got, nutrition and exercise covered. Are there any other lifestyle factors women should be mindful of when it comes to bone health?
Well, maintaining a healthy weight is essential. Being either underweight or overweight can increase your risk of fractures.
That makes sense. But what about other habits like smoking or excessive alcohol consumption?
Those definitely don't do your bones any favors.
Huh?
Smoking is known to, interfere with bone cell activity,
Hmm.
and excessive alcohol consumption can increase bone loss.
So it really is about, making healthy choices across the board. Medication like Zoledronate might play a role,
Right.
but a holistic approach that includes, nutrition, exercise, and healthy habits is fundamental.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about taking a proactive approach to bone health throughout your life.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the surprising findings of this landmark study to the broader context of bone health and preventative strategies. But as always, there's more to explore. As you continue to learn about bone health, we want to leave you with this thought: beyond calcium and vitamin D, beyond hidden factors, the unexpected connections that might hold the key to truly resilient bones. Are there like subtle lifestyle tweaks or dietary secrets or even overlooked aspects of our environment that could be influencing our bone health in ways we're only like beginning to understand?
That's a fantastic question to ponder. It really does highlight the fact that our understanding of bone health is constantly evolving. There's always more to learn.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole journey so exciting. We're peeling back the layers, uncovering new insights, and moving closer to a future where, strong, healthy bones are within everyone's reach.
And it's a future we can all contribute to, right? By staying informed, asking questions, and making conscious choices to support our bone health. We can all help shape that future.
This deep dive has been a real journey of discovery, challenging those assumptions and sparking new questions about how we approach, fracture prevention. We explored the surprising power of 2 doses of Zoledronate, spaced 5 years apart, in protecting against those vertebral fractures in, early postmenopausal women.
But we also uncovered, the complexities of bone health, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing that a single intervention isn't some kind of magic bullet. It's about a holistic approach that encompasses, medication, nutrition, exercise, and a commitment to overall well-being.
And as always, the conversation continues. New research is constantly emerging, refining our understanding and guiding us toward even more effective ways to safeguard bone health, for a lifetime.
It's a good reminder that we're all in this together, constantly learning and striving for those, vibrant, fracture-free years ahead.
So as you continue on your journey, remember to, stay informed, stay curious, and stay proactive about your bone health. Until next time, happy diving.